Yes, yes. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the match review for the fixture played on the 28th of July, 2026, between Grange Thistle Football Club and Morton City Excelsior. This game was played in FQAL's Division 3 competition, and it was round 20. This was a delayed fixture, as the initial fixture was delayed due to bad weather conditions. A summary of the statistics, a fantastic 2-1 win. Although I have to say, I don't really feel that that scoreline accurately portrays how well Grange played and how well we dominated the game. There's some information which I'll share shortly, which I think tells us a lot about that. But before I get to that, we'll just briefly go through the statistics. The goals we scored were Francis, who scored fantastic goals. Honestly, a very Francis-y goal, just following in like a cattle dog, just chasing, never stopping. Managed to pick up the crumbs. Was very unlucky not to have a second one. I'm not quite sure what he was thinking. He tried some fancy back heel thing, and made a mess of what really should have been his second goal. Should have been a brace for Francis. So remember that next time, Francis. Um, Obviously, we scored a second goal through Luke Williams. Mayel slipped him through with with a good quality pass. One of those occasions when Mayel sized the opposition up, selected the right option, put Luke through, and Luke made no mistake with the finish. They managed to get one back in the 63rd minute. We made some changes. Specifically, we made some changes at the back, so we were a bit disorganised for a little bit of time there. They managed to come straight through the middle. And just a calamity of errors, really. We didn't execute the press up front particularly well. We didn't mark up in the middle particularly well. We didn't mark up at the centre back particularly well. We didn't mark up at the fullbacks particularly well. And I think if Mick had his time again, he probably feels that he might have done better with the save. So just a string of mistakes. But the reality is that was what it was going to take for them to score last night. We were, for the most part, restricted them to shots, pretty insipid shots from outside of our box. So fantastic effort. Um, I thought our dominance of the game was very much encapsulated by our possession. 57% to 43% is a really significant possession statistic. Um, we generated 10 attempts on goal, nine shots. They generated 14 and 13. Now, look, they had more shots, but like I said, a lot of their shots were very much coming from outside the area. They were poor quality shots, and most of them, the vast majority of them, represented relatively easy saves from Mick. They obviously managed to sneak one through. Honestly, I thought they were good for their goal. They are a good sort of, counter-attacking side when they bomb it and sort of, rely on their speed to try to help. They don't really play with much for midfield. They very much go from the back to the front, usually down the flanks. And as the game tires, they can often find some joy down there. There's a string of statistics. They got more free kicks than us. Look, honestly, one of the things I thought was really significant. I just had the general feeling that the whistle went Excelsior's way the whole game, which amazed me because they were complaining the whole game. But it seemed as though whenever there was a 50-50, he'd lean towards Excelsior, or if they fouled, he'd then not he if they fouled us and there was a chance to break with advantage, he'd stop us and prevent us from playing on. I just really wasn't happy with the performance of the official. Having said that, difficult job. I'm not going to comment too much on the offside calls. There were some offside calls. I think his approach was just if he thought it might be offside, he'd call it offside. You really need to be sympathetic to the officials when the FQ does not allocate linesmen. It's usually the opposite. Usually we get fantastic referees and linesmen on night games, but on Tuesday night, it was not the case. 31 fouls to 14. I thought that was actually a reflection of our good defensive play. We were prepared to be patient. We were prepared not to take a risk and put the ball out when we thought we needed to, and we also forced them wide. And then, unfortunately, we'd often put it over the sideline, but better to put over the sideline, make them force a throw in, than have them kick long. We committed more fouls. I think that's a reflection of what I was saying with the referee. I didn't share his view of a lot of those, but that won't be the last time that I say that. We completed 213 passes to their 135. That is a massive statistic, boys, and really leans into that possession statistic. It's a good sort of 15% difference, or in the possession statistics, or 14% if we're going to get down to 10 taps. But in any case, in terms of time in possession minutes, 15 to 11. Um, and of course, possession 161 to 159. Now, I pointed out where they took their shots from. They took their shots from those areas because we were willing to control, maintain possession, and maintain a structure to the game. And that meant that we didn't have a lot of destabilizing periods where they could get in behind us because we were a bit all over the shop. In fact, one of the periods where we were destabilized was the goal that they scored. We can have a look at that, but I don't really want to dwell on that because there's a lot of positives. And I think that with that mistake was very much brought about by some substitutions that we'd made. So maybe there's some lessons there for the coach. From my perspective, I don't know that I had the strongest game. I got to the end of it, noticed that some boys had missed out on minutes where I'd hoped to give them more. I mean, Francis is a really good example. 21 minutes, that wasn't the plan. And I think Hayden got 19 minutes. So Luca, I think, also had 21. Look, once they scored in the second half, we really needed to lock it in. This game was incredibly important for our season. To my mind, it effectively means that it's very, very difficult for Excelsior to make the top four. I personally think it's beyond them, unless a lot of results go their own way and they win all their remaining fixtures. Bearing in mind that they only have four fixtures left. They have, I believe it's two buys coming up in that couple of rounds. In any case, they've got four fixtures left, meaning they need 12 points, and they're currently, I think they're 9 points behind us. So it's a long way back for them. Moving on. Now, these are some of the statistics I just wanted to discuss. Not sure how well you'll be able to see this, particularly if you're listening to it on an audio, but these statistics here, these are the statistics from the, gosh, I think I've got to zoom it a bit, haven't I? All right, we can do that. So these are the statistics from from our last game, okay? The last game we played them. Now you can see we strung together 35, we strung together 22 passages of play where we had 3 to 35 passes. Actually, I apologize. This is from Tuesday night. So 22 times we strung together 3 to 5 passing strings of 3 to 5. 3 times we got passes of more than 6, and our longest passing string was 8 passes. As compared to Excelsior, they only strung together 3 to 5 passes 7 times in the entire game. That's a reflection of the amount of time we forced them just to bomb it long. A massive component of that was our press, because they don't really have a midfield, so that allows our press to exploit them and force them to try to kick over. And on 4, their longest passing string was 4, which effectively means that they only generated 3 or 4 passes at the most 7 times. So I thought that was a really, really, really commanding performance from us, and a really good demonstration of us executing our plans to retain the ball. I'm very proud of our performances of a team and everybody's contribution to producing those statistics. I believe the result speaks for itself in terms of how effective playing football in that style is. Okay, first time we played these boys, we were 2-1 down, and ended up with Mayel pulling out a fantastic free kick option to get us over the line, and get to 2-2. We played them the second time, and of course we ended up getting a late penalty, which Mayel converted on the second time of offering. Now, this time, 2-1 result, I feel we left some goals out there, if I'm honest. I really do. But in any case, 2-1 and a commanding 2-1. Like, we were 2-0 up, okay, and they scored off, they worked hard, and I think they were good for a goal, but we should have scored more, and their goal was quite a scrappy one. Anyway, let's go back to the last time we played them. On 20 occasions, we got 3 to 5 passes together, which is not that different to what we did today, where it's 22. But we did not complete 6 or more passes, and in fact, our longest passing string was 5. Okay, so that's a significant change in the quality of our ability to control the ball. Now, what's also interesting is Excelsior on 16 occasions they got 3 to 5. 4 occasions they had 6 or more passes, and their longest passing string was 8. So basically, by controlling the ball and controlling possession, we denied them possession, but also our press broke them up. Okay, our press really, really broke up their play. And we'll get into breaking down some of that as we move into the next section of this video. But boys, really, really good result. Now we will move forward into the next section of the video. So now we can move on to our match preparation and seeing how we went. So our main goal was to retain the ball across multiple phases. Now I've gone through and I've analysed and broken down the match into on the video, so we can now have a look at a couple of positives and a couple of not positives. So we're going to start. We start very early on, 5-1. This is something that was happening a little bit. Zach was getting trapped. One thing we do need to work on is releasing the ball to the right as well as the left, because we seem to go to the. Okay, so Zacky's on the ball. We'll go to full screen. That way everything will be where it needs to be. Now goes to Luke. Now Luke gets the ball. The ball's arrived. Okay, Luke's going to go back to Luke Payne. Now he dribbles back, and then we play to Zach. Probably not the best pass. Probably wouldn't have been a bad thing to have a touch, but playing the ball quickly was a good thing in that instance. Now, obviously, in this case, they've got plenty of bodies forward. They were trying to press us really quite aggressively at the very start there. I used red for them. Get some circles. So they've got quite a few bodies. They've got 5 bodies forward on and around the ball to try to break us up. What I would point out is we've got Max over here, who's a really, really good avenue. So in this instance, possibilities for Zach, a pass to Mick, a pass all the way over. Having said that, the proximity of this striker here is a factor. Okay. But what we needed to do in this instance, I personally think if we roll it back, so if we need to see this play out, now Zach decides to have a run. If Zach decides to have a run like that, what probably needs to happen is we need to give him, because he's running into the teeth of a bunch of their defenders, so we need to give him other options. Okay, so Luke, you need to be dropping in, needs to be dropping in. Ollie probably needs to be dropping out a bit. Max needs to be coming in behind, and Zach needs to be coming high, because it's looking a little bit grim if we turn the ball over. As it turns out, Zachy almost dribbles through them. But they managed to turn it over. And this is a very dangerous position. So my point is we need to support Zachy, and all else fails Zach in those situations, just get rid of the ball. Just get it as far forward as you possibly can, or you can just kick it out down the line, as far down the line as you can. So that was a dangerous that was a dangerous situation for us. If we then go forward to 8:45. Okay, so now this is a similar situation. Okay, the difference is we're a little bit more central, which gives us a little bit more space. They're not as aggressive on their press. They're a lot further back. Nonetheless, we now go to Luke Payne. Luke Payne knows they're coming over. Bearing in mind, this is 3 minutes after the last episode we had with Zachy, where Zachy's almost caught out. Okay, and so what happens is Luke Payne has done some number counting. He realised we've got Zach, we've got Max, we've got Mick in support, we've got Griggsy coming across, and we've got Riley's dropped in, which means that Luke is further forward. What am I going to figure out? I might use white circles for them because I think they stand out a little bit better. So they got 3 players forward. So we're not under a huge amount of pressure. Luke goes that way. And now, well, probably not the best pass from Zach, but Mick's pretty secure on the ball, which means that we can spread and take advantage of the width. And if we follow this all the way around, so we've got plenty of options. Madge goes line. Will just gets a bit overpowered in that situation. Okay, so look, we've managed to switch We haven't managed to find the numbers. Obviously, an outlet pass for Will there before he turns over the ball is to try to find link up with players on the inside who are behind the ball. So we've got Riley here, we've got Griggsy there, and from there, if we can get the ball to there, then we've got the capacity to switch direction, link up with Zach, link up with Luke, link up with Luke Payne. So, but on the whole, not a bad thing. We've advanced the ball. We get the call. You can see we've maintained the ball going down the sideline. It's early in the game. We're finding our feet, feeling out the opponents. Okay, now we quickly go. Now in this situation, if we hold the ball up and we look at Zach's options are Griggsy coming across. Luke is pointing to Griggsy. Luke W is here. Max is in support, holding out the space in terms of the opponents. Okay, I think that might be Kalen, so there's no pace there. Ball goes quickly to Griggsy. Griggsy draws, passes, and then we're away now. In this situation, Luke has got he's got time, he's got space. We're in our own half. He looks down. He realizes that he's got a chance to put Luke away. Now, the reason why this is a really good option is because the defenders are a central and in their own half. He's got this guy beaten, which means that all he has to do is feed this one down the line. And if he can keep it wide, we're really good odds for Luke to be able to chase it if he can manage to bomb it down the sideline. As it turns out, that's exactly like what Luke does. Luke gets there, wins the ball, almost wins the foot race, but we end up down the field. Okay, they've got some reasonable players in this team, so it's a good win for us. Do you know what I mean? Particularly getting 2 on the bounce, but nonetheless, like I said before kickoff, this is very much a précis of where we are now. I talk about sustained pressure. Okay, so Luke's going to run over. I'll just roll it through here because this is the lead up to our first goal. So this is the advantage of keeping the ball in the opposition's third. So we've retained possession. We've made them run around, let them chase the ball. So we're in their third. We're looking for the ball. We're a bit bunched up. Luke identifies. There you go. He identifies now. Remember, you can't be offside from a throw-in. Finds Benji. Benji dribbles it, finds Will. Will clears it from his feet. It's a bit tied up. Gets it over a bit more. Now, Griggsy's about to take a shot. We really want Griggsy to look for more of these. Riley's another one of our midfielders that's quite dangerous from this point. Griggsy has a heavy foot, though. Bang. Keeper pulls off a pretty good initial save. Francis reacts very quickly. Bang. Great work. Okay, so this is one of those things we talked about. This the thing I liked about that is we talked about it before the game. That it was a young keeper stepping up. It doesn't actually matter whether it's a young keeper stepping up or whether it's the regular full-time keeper. That kind of shot, hard, firm shot in between traffic is always going to challenge a keeper as far as stopping it goes. All right. So, good boys, well done. And now we're going to go to 14-15. This is an example of what we love Mael doing. So we love it. Now Mael gets the ball up on halfway. Okay, we might actually go back a fraction more than that. So the ball comes out. This is corner. Mael was up on halfway. Madge looks up, finds him, probably just needed to come to it, but you've got the ball. What sometimes Mael can do is he can be intent on taking on as many players as he possibly can. So he does that, holds the ball up, feeds the ball down the line. That's really, really good play. And then stays alive. So he feeds the ball and then stays alive on the inside. Finds Will. I think Will's miscontrolled that, and the keeper gets it. But that's a really good example of what we all want to be doing, but especially Mael when we're in attack, is feeding the ball and then staying involved, okay, staying involved in the play. We now move up to 16:56, I should say. So this is an example. So this is where I don't think things worked out. So we've got the options. We did end up getting caught on this side. It does show the fact that, Luke has to kick around himself to get the ball down the line, but we're retaining possession. Zacky's still there. And this is what we can do, okay? Boots it along, okay? And this is it's a good time to do it. Kick the ball away, particularly if you can find space, because they have a bunch of players pressing. They got five players forward. They're covering off Grigsby. This guy's covering the space, so the long ball out to the other side to Mick, to Max or Major would be higher risk. Ball goes into the middle. Unfortunately, he's misjudged a bit, but nonetheless, it's into space and we're off. Finds the ball in the middle. Now this is good here. Benji sized up his options. He'd be unaware that Luke was offside. That is something we need to work on. We're offside way too much this game. Feeds it through. Great opportunity. Will gets through on the ball. Luke gets through, dribbles through, can't quite create the shot, but we managed to retain possession. Mayal gets out there. Caught a little off guard by the enthusiasm of the defender, but good on him if he's that enthusiastic. So now 17-15. So the message of all of this is how we are moving the ball around, letting the ball do the work, maintaining possession. That's our big thing. We really want to be maintaining possession. We're going to go forward to 61. So we're in the second half now. So 61-06. We started the second half quite well. We were really in control of the game. Our second goal was really not a surprise to anyone, really. Certainly wasn't to me. Okay, so we've got the ball now. Okay, or have we 61-06? Oh, I'm beyond it. Okay, 61-06. So right here. Okay, so 61-06. So this is where what we're talking about here is, can we find an opportunity to go back to mix? So we're over here, and now if we pause here, can we find a way, given that they're closing down the space? Now, their striker has executed a really good run, if you have a look, and we'll give credit for that. So he's ran from somewhere around about here, and he's bent his run to prevent us going back to the keeper. Okay, so he's bent his run well there. And that's fine. So Zach's driving up. Now, he's realised at this point that he's going to go long. Obviously, if we can find a way, I mean, my suggestion would be a good option here could be to go to Major. Okay, so one option that we've got is Major, and then Major goes down the line to Will. Okay, and then Will can potentially link up to. So this is stuff that we were doing in the first half. So Zachy goes to Major, Major goes to Will. Will's then got the option of finding Riley. He's also got the potential option of finding a Grigsy who steps up, or he can go back to Major. So, maintain possession rather than lump it up. I understand why, because it's an aggressive run from the striker, but we had options there. That was not the option. Okay, the better option would be to go wider, because if we turn the ball over there, there's a lot of stress. I'm not sure why. Mick probably could have come for that. Ends up they miss the shot, so we get away with it. So that's probably an example of us coming out from our end where we can learn from it. The good thing about these situations is if we learn from these things, okay, the more we do it, the better we'll get at it, the more press resistant we will get. Okay, so we're going to keep doing this because we want to get to the point where we are press resistant. Now, this is really good. I'm actually going to go back a fraction before this point. Okay, so Will's got the ball. Now, Will's forward. What he hasn't done is tried to force a bad option. He's got the ball. He can see. Okay, so bang, we go to Major. Major goes over to Max. Max goes over to Zach. Zach comes straight into the middle to Riley. So it's a really good pass. Notice breaking lines. Okay, so I'll use black lines now. Strikers there. That's their midfield. This is their back. So we've broken that line, and we're basically in behind their lines, and we've got space. Okay. So this is really, really good. Now that pass was really unnecessary. So the pass in that situation, we still need to keep finding the easy ball. So the easier ball would have been to go over to Luke, and then we can continue to build up. But that's really not the ideal pass that we want. So we turn it over. And that's fine. We put together about, I don't know, 5 or 6 passes, but we just need to continue to work on that approach. Okay, so we don't need to continue to roll that through. 68-16. So they were having all sorts of trouble getting out of their own half. We weathered that initial. We knew they were going to come out fired up at the start of the second half. So here we are. Ball goes back to Mick. Now we got a bit of a scrap. Mick picks it up. Where does he want to go? Bang, punts it over. I'm just making sure I've got the right one. I don't think I've got the right section of footage there. Okay, no, I know what I was trying to illustrate here. Point of the story is, okay, so we've cleared that out. So that's that's doing what we're hoping that they will do, just bombing it in the midfield where they can win it again. Now, us controlling the ball and controlling, so he has that shot through. Okay, so that's the whole point of it was we've controlled the ball, we've maintained our line, we've maintained possession. The longer that happens, the more desperate they get when they do get the ball. All right? The last section that I wanted to talk about on retain, it's a new concept that we're learning, but it goes to match awareness. Okay, so we've got the ball, we're in possession. We are 69 minutes 58 in, we are 2-1 ahead. Okay, there's not a whole lot on. So what we really want to be trying to do is spread the field in this situation. So we can see we've got players behind the ball. I believe at this stage we'd push Max up. So we've got Max, I think Francis in behind him, Zachy. But behind that, we've got 3 defenders. So in this situation, honestly, guys, 10 minutes to go, we're a goal ahead. Go to Francis, okay? And then Francis can try to find the space. He can try to find the space there. We can go back to Mick if we need to, but we can maintain possession because the pass we put in, okay, we found Luke. And once again, Luke, tough pass. Tough pass. And this is where decision making is starting to become our challenge. So it's a tough decision. Feed it through and you'll be fine. Okay. So, but what we can feed it through, well, gosh, let me consolidate. I've distracted myself there. Apologies, boys. So to me, in that situation, you can dummy to go in and then you can go back and then we can move it around. Okay. And we can maintain the possession. But at the moment, that pass, it's really a forced pass. You've got one player who's going to come in and shut you down. Okay. So he's going to shut you down. And then you've got 3 players and we're trying to feed it through those 3 players in the hope that none of them gets a boot on it, and we're going to be able to find, I think that might be Max. And it gets filtered out. And then what that creates is a transitional moment. We don't like transitional moments because we're destabilised. As it turns out, we move Max back at this point in time. So we've got their big number 15 under control. Max steps up and controls it. Once again, win the ball. Now, in this situation, this is different because we've got a 3. We've at the very least, you can continue counting bodies. We've got a 3-on-2. So this is a situation where we've got these boys. One of their defenders is recovering. This is a situation this is a high probability scoring opportunity. So in this situation, yes, absolutely. 2-1, it's a chance to go to 3-1 and put it away, as opposed to trying to feed it through a whole bunch of defenders. Good ball. Max gets there. He's trying to square the ball, and unfortunately for us, the defender gets there. But we get a corner. That's more time out and more opportunity to maintain possession. Okay. So in summary, really, really good job on retaining. I think we can see the benefit. I pointed out with the stats earlier. I pointed out with the video up to this point. At this point in time right now, we're going to go back to 6:48. Okay, so we're pressing, and there we go. So the satellite map's actually the best way to represent this. But if we can have a look at where our presses are, so we're in position in case he decides to kick long or high. But we've got our front 4, so we're going man for man. This is the start of the game. They're not really expecting this. Now we've got pressure coming onto the ball. If we look at the tracker, we've got them all marked up 1 for 1. They try to feed it through. Misses the pass, which is to be expected because they're under a lot of pressure. This is like the 3rd minute, and now we look after the ball. Okay, so Maxi breaking lines as always, finds Will. Unfortunately, not the control he wanted. But the point of the story is that there was no threat there. Okay, we pressed them, we've won the ball back, and we carry on. 14:32. Now, in this instance, this is an example. I don't think that the trap went particularly well. Let's have a look at it. I'll recognise it when I see it. Okay. So here we are. So we're a bit disorganised, but we're starting to shape up. Okay. So you can see, there we go. So we've got our four. So we've got them marked up. Man for man. Luke's coming over to take this guy. Mael's onto this guy. Benji's onto this guy. I think that's Benji. So if we have a look at where they are, so we've got them, once again, our press, man for man press. We force them over. Now, they manage to try to kick through the press, don't get past the press. I think it's Benji wins the ball, kicks it into Mael, awful touch, and they're back into it. Okay, but the point of the story is, and now we're back into this man for man press. We've given him time. He lobs it over. Now, we probably shouldn't have allowed him to win the ball in that situation. But the point of the story is, this is not a particularly threatening at that position. We've got three men back. We've got 3-on-1 back. We've got a 2-on-3 here. We win the ball here. We can attack again. We lose the ball. We've got numbers back. Really, really good way to play football. Really, really, it's a really good way to play football. I'll go down to 18-18. This is an example where the press broke down and we just had to recover. Okay. So breaks down. This guy's got too much room. Okay, and once again, we're putting pressure on their centre back. Luke's managed to get a body onto that, and we are in. Unfortunately, the only thing that messes this up is the fact that Mael's straight offside. We do need to work harder at being onside, boys. There's no reason to be pushing this all the time in the world to get onside. And look, it wasn't only Mael throughout the game, and then he has the nerve to turn around and have a chop at the official. Got to stop that. You're going to get yourself into trouble, boys. I mean, I know I find it difficult, particularly when an official having a bad day. So 8:14. Okay, we go back a fraction more. So this is just a couple of moments further on. You can see they're having all sorts of trouble. This is the offside free kick. So this is effectively a goal kick. Now, passes straight down the middle. Scrappy ball, which we managed to win. Or do we? Yes, Mael wins. Just kind of overplays it a bit. But this is our goal. Bang. Well, should have been. God, yeah, that's right. Sorry. Sorry, Franny. Yeah, that should have been a goal. Yeah, there's not much more you can say about that. We really need to be capitalising on those. By the time we get to 22-23, don't forget, look, these boys would fancy themselves as a better football team than us. But by the time we get to 21-22, shortly after this, because of all that condensed pressure, they don't even bother playing out. They just set it up and they're just going to go. So we're halfway through the half. They're just going to bomb it long. We win the ball and we're back in. So this is exactly what we're wanting to happen with our press, to force teams to bomb it long, because they've dropped numbers back. We've got numbers behind the ball, so that's fine, but they've dropped these boys back. He's there. This guy's there. The other centre-back's over here somewhere and the right-back's over here. So what they're trying to do is open up the middle of the pitch, and that's fine. But if we can win that header, we've got our number 9 and a whole bunch of players in there to head into that space. So, it's a very, very good position, because if we can win, we go straight into the attack. And as it turns out, bang. Now, this goal comes about as a direct result of our press. So Mael has the shot, but boom. Okay. So, honestly, boys, doing pretty well. Really happy with how our press is functioning. There were 2 minor things I wanted to talk about with our backline, though. 2 minor, and then 2. And they're only minor, but the reality is minor adjustments or mistakes can be what creates goals. In this case, this is just the back 4 positioning is a fraction off. So they bomb it up. Now, in this situation, okay, back 4 positioning is a fraction off. Zach's in a good spot. Major's 1 for 1. The other centre back needs to be more central, okay, because we've got Lukey here. So you need to be more central, more around about here, because that would allow you to support Major. As it turns out, ball goes over, Major's recovering, and we're just sort of not really anywhere. We get away with it, okay, but shouldn't have been that nervy. This is 59 minutes 34 in. There's a lot of teams like this that have got um, there's a lot of teams like this that have got players like this who are fast, they've got a reasonable finish on them, and if you give them too many a half chance, they will take a half chance, and then you're going to be chasing the game. This is the goal we conceded in. I think this is the goal we conceded. What is that? 30. This is not the goal we conceded. The thing I like about that passage of play, okay, yeah, I've got something. Oh, look, I've got something mixed around in my notes, boys. Apologies. But what I like about this is we have starved them into this, okay? So we're defending. Major's got in the way. We've stopped him up. We've had it. That's not a good pass. Need to be tighter than that, Isaac. You had better options. That is what I classify as a nothing ball in the middle of the pitch. Ball comes in. We've restricted them to these kind of shots. Okay, he's a long way out. That needs to be a phenomenal shot in order to beat the keeper from that distance, and that was not. So what I'm going to do though now, I'm just going to go to summary events. Just going to go down to Excelsior's goal because I wanted to break down. I talked about this at the start of the video. Their goal we scored in the 55th. I think they scored in the 63rd. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So this is where we just need to tighten stuff up a bit, boys. Here we go. So we're doing the sub. Mael comes off. Now, there's a couple of things from this. We know that he's going to play it as soon as so Luca's coming on. So Luca needs to get into position earlier. Unfortunately, need to be getting into position because if if the striker is in position in front of the centre back, it's going to shut down that passing lane and force them laterally. It's the first job of our press. Not Luca's fault really, because the official kind of sold him a line, but you need to get there earlier. And if need be, rather than running here, you can just drop in, okay, to protect the middle of the pitch. Because what happens is they pass straight down the middle of the pitch. Now, yes, we've left that way too open. We haven't picked up players. We haven't filled the middle of the pitch, which we really need to should be because that's where they've been going all game. They've managed to get this ball. There's a poor read here, which allows them to feed through. Zacky's kind of lost his man a tiny bit, but not a lot. Now Zacky starts getting drawn towards the ball. Zacky at right back, you just need to stay on your player, okay? Because at the moment, if you come in and you get caught short out by that ball, so you just got to stay out and mark this guy. That's your job. So your job is to mark this guy, because as you can see, you get drawn in, and you've ended up taking no one. Okay. Whereas if you're out here marking this guy, then you win the ball and turn, or you at least deal with it. He gets the ball, and then to cap it off, I'm pretty sure Mick got a good mid on that. And I think Mick could probably consider that to be a save that we would normally accept him to make because he's usually quite strong with those ones. So the point of the story is there's a whole string of bad decisions that have led to their goal. Yes, it was a change. Couldn't get the striker on, but we need to drop in and fill those channels. We need to identify that Luke is not on the pitch yet, okay? And we need to identify that he's going to be coming in as striker. So therefore, that's where we need to be. That's where we need to be filling in, okay, and filling in the spaces so that they can't score through there. So we just need to be game aware, not stand there and wait for him to come on, because the official is not going to stop the game and wait for someone to come on as a substitute. All right, then. So, boys, that wraps it up. Really good game. Really happy with the performance. We get tonight off, so Thursday night we get a breather. And we get to load up for the gap. I will be doing a pre-match for the gap. It's an important game for us. We need to get the points because we're currently trying to make sure that we stay in fourth position. I will see you on Sunday.